Hello and good evening. Welcome to the first Thursday Night Magic of the new year. I'm Clifford. I'm here with Sky Bill. Sky, how are you tonight?
Doing pretty well, Clifford. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm on the mend. I'm recovering from some kind of horrible plague sickness I got down in Orlando at the end of GD.
Uh
Yeah,
yo.
you know how it happens. That GD flu, nothing to mess with.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, it was Gary for a second. I was hoping we were gonna see some Gary action, but you want to know what? I don't blame Rogueling for going mono white because we haven't seen mono white in a long time, and that's very exciting about Theros right now.
It's been almost a year since Mono White has been anywhere to be seen. Tonight we do have Rogue Link and Ryko Rider. I'm about to set them free to get started. So yeah, we have this new set, this new Theros set. What do you think of the set so far, Scott?
I think it added to standard what it needed. First of all, we finally get to see white again. That is one of the biggest highlights. The other highlight is with the return of the mechanic of devotion, we get a chance to see some monocolored decks again. So we're seeing a lot of black and a lot of white. The only disappointment and or criticism I have with Theros is it did not bring mono red back to where it was supposed to be. I feel like one of the best ways they could have done it was with a reprint of Lightning Strike, which was in the original Theros, but none this time, and that's really interesting. Maybe it would have been too much with Skewer the Critics or something like that, but I'll tell you something. If you want mono red to run properly, you kind of need that 2 mana instant speed deal 3 damage kind of spell. Otherwise, it gets kind of difficult.
Yeah, I can see that being a thing. I haven't had as much time being sick to really look over the whole set as a whole, but it has one of my absolute favorite cards ever printed, and I'm going to be building around it as soon as I actually sit down to brew up a deck, and that is Underworld Dreams, uh, which is an enchantment for 3 black that anytime your opponent draws a card, they take a damage, and that like yeah, it punishes your opponent for drawing cards. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the number one Punisher right now is still Narset because they can't draw. However, if you want to deal damage instead of preventing them from drawing, certainly Underworld Dreams is that card. All right, so one of the things I'm wondering, looking at Rogue Link's choice here, did you know, Clifford, that Linden is now a playable and very aggressive standard card?
I did not.
Yeah, so for those of you who need to remember, Linden was from Throne of Eldraine. Linden, 3 white. Obviously, you want to cast that Heliod as soon as possible. Has Vigilance 3/3, and it says whenever any creature attacks, and this is per creature, gain a life. And of course, the first card that y'all should be thinking of that combos with this is Ajani's Pridemate. So those two together are really good. But it looks like Roguelink here has taken more of an enchantment approach, which I've seen that done in Selesnya. I've seen it done in Abzan as well. And there's a couple cards that revolve around that, but I've never seen just a mono white version of an enchantment, so that's pretty exciting. Ryko here going for Simic, probably some of the best Standard has to offer right now is in Simic, with the addition of the giant. I think it's Euro or Uro. I'm not sure how people pronounce the name, but speaking of odd names, here comes Yorvo here, 4/4, against a 1/2 flyer here.
And a
And
pious
now,
wayfinder.
I was gonna say, Roguelink choosing to eat the damage probably for the next turn. There's Nylea for Ryko. Great card again. Out of the new set. Had it in my sealed pool. Can't say enough good things about Nylea, so great choice there for Ryko.
And everybody's favorite goose. Honk.
And Henge is going to be happening soon as well, the Great Henge. So I believe when that happens, if the order is Great Henge Nylea, Ryko could get a +1/+1 counter potentially on Nylea from the Great Henge. So pretty good strategy here. Roguelink also being patient with the Archon of Sun's Grace.
And the goose gonna block. And we should see the hinge come down now.
Yep, Raiko playing that in just the right order. Also, too, there is one strategy that Raiko's employing here that I do want to point out. Raiko is choosing to conceal the blue part of the deck until the absolute last minute, until Raiko needs it. I like the strategy because then you don't suspect the crisis until it actually happens. So, good little unspoken strategy there for Raiko. I like it.
Yes, at first I was wondering why we weren't seeing the island, but now like why show it off?
All that glitter is onto Archon here, and yes, that is a life linker that creates 2/2 Pegasus every single time an enchantment is played. So Roguelink having a little bit of an advantage in the air. We'll see, let's see, 6, 7, 8. Raiko is going to cast this Hydra. And yes, that Hydra will be able to fight the Archon. So, Clifford, what do you think about this strategy? Do you like the choice there, or do you think that you double the 1/1 counters on, because it does have trample after all, and you let that take over? That's a tough call. It's a tough call.
I think with since it can survive, you let it fight and just take more control of the board. And then now there's another Hydra hanging out in Raiko's hand that can just even more so take over the.
Absolutely, that was a great draw. So with that draw, definitely the fight strategy was well done there on Raiko's part. It's tough. I would have considered doubling the counters on it to put that much more pressure on the opponent, but Banishing Light could happen. That's a good justifier right there. Ooh, that Cavalier Thorns is gonna be rough, but that's if Roguelink can get it past even this.
Yeah, I don't know if Roguelink is going to survive long enough to even see the Cavalier of.
And Roguelink just drawing way too much mana here for this situation. Raiko is going to win game 1. I like this approach that Raiko's taken to, I mean, I don't want to call it mono green, but it looks mono green. I bet you it's mono green Splash Crisis if I were to take a guess.
That wouldn't surprise me.
The only issue with that deck, and you have to be super careful, board wipes in particular, that deck seems very vulnerable to. Esper Control has been out there lately. I've seen some Orzhov builds run Kaya's Wrath as well. And then, of course, you have to watch out for those Fires decks. Those are still a thing, by the way, Clifford.
And there's the new Wrath of God, right? With the just 2 white and 2 destroy all creatures.
Yeah, Shatter the Sky. However, if you possess a creature with 4 power or greater, any player that has that gets to draw a card.
Yeah, that's another wipe you got to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, and that's a great wipe for Fires too. You used to have to wait for 5 mana to be able to get that. Alright, going into game 2 here. Seems like a legit hand here by Roguelink. You get the Daxus out, you Angelic Gift to draw some cards. This could be a challenging one for Raiko to take on if Raiko's doing a lot of ramping at first and not a lot of creature playing.
And we are going to see a turn 1 Goose for the ramp.
That's also a Banishing Light in Roguelink's hand. Roguelink's hand is getting sweeter and sweeter by the second here.
Yeah, really just needs another land in this situation, and the gift that can help find that.
Oh, you definitely play that Heliod first, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, now, if you didn't have the 3rd land, then you'd have to go digging for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Heliod's going to be very overwhelming if Roguelink can get that out as soon as possible. So, you go Angelic Gift here next turn, unless you get that mana right away, then you play Archon. Nyx Lotus, though, do not underestimate this. No, we did not get Nykthos as a land. There's the 4th mana. You go for that Archon there. This field is looking sweeter and sweeter for Roguelink by the second. Roguelink opting to put that +1/+1 in the event of a Hydra. Do you play the Crisis right now if you're Ryko? I'd say yes, maybe. Now, there's a case to play Nylea as well.
There's...
Oh, that's so tough. I want to say you play the Hydra here because you get the life gain. But Roguelink's prepared for pretty much anything right now in this situation. Going first has really made the difference here for Roguelink.
It's a very, very tough decision on the side of Ryko Rider, but we're going to see the Crisis come down, gain some life, draw some cards.
Yeah, Roguelink not
eaten.
wasting. Yeah, I was going to say, Roguelink not wasting time. That Banishing Light hits the field, which, yes, does count towards devotion.
And lots of things turning sideways. And it looks like we're going to game 3, just like that.
That's how Mono White works. You either win in the first few turns or you don't. It very much works like the way Red used to, except you don't have Experimental Frenzy, but you can't have everything. I've seen people go for a Boros build lately that uses Merriment plus Heliod, which is very interesting.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I know you like Outlaws Merriment.
I always loved Outlaws Merriment.
So here we are into game 3. All the marbles.
This seems like a pretty alright hand.
I would keep it.
Ryko's got a nice amount of ramp as well. These are two pretty decent hands going at it. I think Ryko's is slightly better because of all the ramp, but Roguelink's isn't that far off, and playing the Envoys will definitely help out. Get that Archon out there as soon as possible. Well, sorry, the Archon's ability active as soon as possible. It doesn't reduce the cost of Archon. Oh, is that a turn 3 Cavalier of Thorns?
That's one of the really good plays you can make. Turn 3 Cavalier ones.
That's up there. You can't even attack here. And Roguelink saying, alright, I'm going to eat this damage, I'm going to play Archon, and just hope for the best here. Meanwhile, Ryko Rider is going to get a massive Crisis next turn. Massive. Oh! Question. So you use the henge to make food, and then it's even that much more. I guess that isn't much of a question. I was looking, I'm like, do you pay for that land? I'm like, nope, you have enough to make a food. Yeah, Ryko's hand is just bonkers right now. Even though there's all those lands, which you really don't want, it's going to be good here for the Crisis, and I'm sure Ryko's going to get a bunch of creatures off of this.
So let's see, we have...
I think the card draw is going to be the biggest difference maker here. Oh my gosh. Look at that. Oh!
It's a pretty good draw off your Hydroid Crisis.
I mean, pretty good is an understatement there. Double Hydra, well, Voracious Hydra, and then Euro on top of it. And Ryko's got all the removal with those 2 Hydras, which I'm sure he'll use this turn to start getting those Archons off the field. It's really the only thing Roguelink has to hang on to. Now you do fight, without a shadow of a doubt here.
Yeah, there's about to be lots of fighting here. Like a barroom brawl is about to break out.
Yeah, and Raiko can just afford to buy time. Raiko doesn't even necessarily need to attack here. Probably will with the Krasis and leave the Cavalier behind.
Yeah, I mean, you can just, fly for 8.
That is a Banishing Light, so you play the Envoy here, you get the Pegasus. Oh, Rogalink going for the Banishing Light first. Playing it on Cavalier of Thorns, that's a bold move, Cotton. But Rogalink doesn't know that Voracious Hydra is in Raiko's hand again.
That is true.
It's always easy, hindsight's 20/20. Rogalink playing to try to win the game versus trying to play the game to not lose. I mean, you have to admire that.
Always. You would.
But probably gonna go Hydra again. I think Raiko should have enough to deal with the Archon. Anyone got a calculator?
By my math, we have, what is that? A lot.
Yep, that's enough.
Just barely.
Yeah, and here is, again, it wasn't about the Krasis per se, it was about the draws that the Krasis made. Rogalink is very much land flooded. Now, you can make that argument for Raiko, but Raiko's also been drawing more cards at this point. Yeah, and that Envoy is not going to do much at this point. An Anthem right now would be amazing. Oh, what a close game!
And that will take Raiko to 4, but that's not quite enough.
Yeah, if Rogalink maybe would have drawn like 2 less lands, Rogalink probably would have been able to make that work. Yeah, it really was all about the Great Henge here.
The Henge is pretty great.
How would you characterize the Great Henge? It was great.
Basically. And now a lot of really large monsters are coming to attack. And that will take Rogalink to -16. That's less than 0, which fortunately 0 is where you lose the game.
Unless you have Platinum Angel. But that's unstandard.
So that was a couple of really fun looking decks, if I do say so myself.
Oh, definitely. The issue with Mono White is it doesn't really have a really good best of 3 plan yet. Whereas if anything in Cinecolors is just really good at this point. The only issue Raiko would possibly face with that deck is to go against a Fire's deck with just all the board wipes.
It makes sense. So, unfortunately, that's going to be all of the games we have for tonight. But, Sky, what do you think it's a brand new format? Like, you've been out there brewing. What do you think the metagame's going to look like here in the next, for anybody that's, going to any tournaments this weekend?
So, we're back to the point where I believe it's the 2 extremes. You have pretty fast aggro and then pretty drawn out control. So, on the control end of things, you have Esper control, Esper hero. You have fires, all sorts of different variants of fires. 5 color fires has been out there. That's been a pretty tough deck to go against. It's pretty tough to pilot, but pretty big in gains. And then you have Rakdos. There's a lot of Rakdos, a lot of sacrificing. I think the Jund sacrifice deck is still out there. That's probably the closest thing to a mid-range deck you're going to get. And then some people still like to throw mono white into the mix, but I haven't seen too much of it in best of 3 quite yet. There's some reclamation going on too, so if you were a fan of Team or Reclamation, there's a couple different reclamation decks I've seen floating around as well.
Reclamation. Now that sounds like fun.
No, Reclamation's such a pain to deal with when you're looking at it.
You say that, but it like, yeah, you're right.
So, Clifford, are there any cards that have caught your eye in Theros so far?
I mean, outside of Underworld Dreams, like I really, really enjoyed playing with Polychronos in the sealed pool I opened it in. Like I really like the idea of escape, and I'm really, really excited to build around some escape cards in the coming weeks and months.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen too many people make full use of Escape, but it's certainly been around. Elspeth being a big one. Woe Strider, if you like black at all, Woe Strider is probably one of the best cards I've ever seen in a while. So if you haven't seen it, comes out for 3, it creates an 0/1 goat, and it has sacrifice a creature, scry 1. You don't have to pay mana, you don't have to tap it, it's literally sacrifice a creature for free, scry 1. So that's being, yeah, it's gross.
No, so I will target you with the kill spell. Nah, that's okay. I'll sacrifice that one to scry.
Or with an adventure card, you know, you go to use Bone Crusher Giant, you go to use Murderous Rider, and the various instants and sorceries surrounding those. If you don't land the instant or the sorcery, you lose the creature part of that card. It fizzles.
That's correct.
So you use Woe Strider with Cruel Celebrant and Corpse Knight and the cat, and suddenly, while there's not a lot of interaction, you have a really good engine for dealing damage. If you don't take that deck out right away, you're just dead.
That's pretty awesome. I like that.
And it's board wipe proof, so the deck can actually run Kaya's Wrath. Especially if you have Nightmare Shepherd in there, you Kaya's Wrath, and then you just bring everything back as a 1/1.
That's incredible. I love it. I think I know what I'm building.
Yeah, that's one of the decks I've been running lately. I've been running that, and then I've been running a Fires deck that uses the also popular Dream Trawler right now. Which should have never been made because that card is very overpowered. It's more of the Spark-esque. It costs 6 to put out. It's 2 white, 2 blue, 2 colorless. And every time it attacks, you can draw a card. Every time you draw a card, it gets +1/+0. If someone tries to spot removal it, you can discard a card to give it hexproof till end of turn.
That seems really good.
It's overpowered.
That sounds real good.
It's a lot of finishers. That's the other deck that's been going around, Azorius Control. You just counter everything until you put out Dream Trawler, and you just kind of sit on that and counter things again. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff y'all should look out for if you're playing in the standard ladder queue right now.
Well, alrighty. I guess here's where we can then call it a night. We'll be back next week at full strength. I promise I'm almost back at full strength, but next week I'll be completely back. And we'll have more fun standard times as the format still evolves with the release of the new Theros Beyond Death.
Yeah, I want to see what you're gonna pick too, Clifford.
I'm real excited to be back and actually able to stare at the screen and think more than just like, okay, where did the thoughts go? But anyway, y'all have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you back here next week. Any final words?
Nope, just get out there and start brewing, because maybe you'll find something that no one has yet, and you could see your deck somewhere out in the wild or being used by the MPL. You never know, so keep brewing.
Remember to main deck those Duresses.
Oh, goodness gracious, no.
Good night, everybody.
Night,